The desert kept its silence that night, a silence that pressed down like the weight of an old memory. Elias McGraw rode slow along the riverbed, the moon casting silver across the shallow water, his horse's hooves muffled in sand. He had no destination, only the restless pull that sometimes took him from his ranch and carried him into the wild hours when other men slept. That was when he saw her, a small figure curled in the reeds, her frame thin as a shadow. For a moment he thought she was already gone, another body claimed by hunger and heat, but then her chest moved with shallow breath. A child barely 7, face gaunt, lips cracked, eyes open but hollow. He dismounted, boots sinking into the soft bank. The crows had circled her already, dark wings folding back when they saw him approach. She did not flinch when he knelt, did not even raise a hand in fear. He touched her arm gently, felt bones sharp beneath the skin. "Easy now," he murmured, though he knew she did not understand his words. The world was full of divisions carved by language, blood, history, but none of that mattered against the sound of her breathing. He lifted her carefully, surprised by how light she was, and carried her to his horse. By the time he reached his cabin, the horizon had paled with dawn. He set her on his bed, fetched water, coaxed her lips to sip. At first nothing passed her mouth, but then she swallowed, a small tremor running through her. He made broth, the smell of it filling the one-room space, and fed her spoon by spoon until she closed her eyes and slept. Elias sat beside the bed through the morning, listening to her shallow breaths, feeling the stir of something he thought long buried. He had once held his sister in fever, years ago, only to bury her beneath a cedar tree. That loss had marked him with silence, the kind that never left. Now here was another child, a stranger, stirring that old ache back to life. When he rode into town the next day for supplies, he felt the weight of eyes upon him. Martha Hensley, sharp-tongued as ever, watched him load flour, beans, medicine. "That yours I saw on the horse yesterday?" she asked, voice loud enough for the saloon porch to hear. Looked mighty small, mighty dark-haired too. Her words cut clean, wrapped in suspicion. Elias kept his jaw tight, said nothing, but Sheriff Boone approached with that heavy stride of his. "You know what you're carrying home, McGraw," the sheriff said. "Apache trouble. Folks don't take kindly to that." "She's a child," Elias answered, voice low. "Child grows into something else. Mark me, you'll bring their kin down on all our heads." Elias met his stare without blinking. "Then let it be my head." He left before more words could be flung, but already whispers spread like fire through dry grass. By the time he reached his ranch, the gossip had taken shape, the story of Elias McGraw hiding Apache blood under his roof. For 3 days the girl said nothing. She ate what he gave her, slept long hours, eyes watching him with a distance that seemed older than her years. He spoke little, but when he did, he kept his tone soft. He told her about the horse, about the land, about the sky that shifted each day like a different face. On the 4th night, while the fire burned low, she whispered one word, voice raw as wind through dry branches. "Naomi." Elias froze, the sound of her name filling the cabin like a fragile secret. He repeated it back gently. She nodded once, then fell silent again. But something had shifted. Her eyes held more light than before. On the 5th day, the sun hung heavy with dust in its glow when Elias heard hoofbeats approach. He stepped outside, rifle leaning by the door, though he did not raise it. 3 figures rode toward him, silhouettes against the burning horizon. Women, draped in woven shawls, hair braided, posture upright with the dignity of stone. They dismounted in silence, each step deliberate. One older, her face marked with lines carved by grief. One younger, eyes sharp as flint, and between them a woman with calm in her bearing, hands steady even as tension hung thick in the air. Elias knew without words they had come for Naomi. The child stood in the doorway behind him, clutching the edge of the frame. She did not run forward. She stayed near Elias, eyes wide, torn between fear and longing. The eldest woman, Taya, spoke first, her voice carrying authority. "You found our blood." "I found a starving child," Elias replied, careful with his tone. "She is ours." The younger one, Anoki, said sharply, her hand clenching at her side. She is alive because he fed her. The calm woman, Selah, countered, her gaze steady not only on Elias but on the child. She knelt, arms open. Naomi, come. But Naomi pressed closer to Elias's leg, trembling. The women's faces shifted, suspicion deepening. Behind them at the fence line, Elias saw shadows. Townsfolk had followed, watching, waiting for trouble. Sheriff Boone among them, his hand near his holster. Martha Hensley whispered to another, eyes bright with a feast of scandal. Taya's stare locked on Elias. Why do you keep her? Because she would have died without me, Elias said, his voice roughened, not with pride but with memory. Because I know what it is to bury a child. He swallowed hard, his eyes fixed on the ground. I lost my sister in fever years ago. 2 light my arms, same as her. I won't see that happen again. A silence followed, heavy as thunder. The 3 women exchanged looks, words passing unspoken. Naomi's small hand slipped into Elias's, clinging. The gesture carried more weight than speech. Sheriff Boone stepped forward, voice cutting. This ends now. The women take the girl, or I do. We don't want Apache blood mixed up in our town. His words echoed against the cabin walls, dripping with judgment. Elias straightened, placing himself between Boone and the women. His voice rose, low but unyielding. You'll have to go through me. Boone sneered. You'd turn against your own kind for them? I'd turn against cruelty, Elias said. He felt Naomi's grip tighten. This girl is in trouble. She's proof we still have hearts that can choose better than hate. The standoff stretched, air brittle with the threat of violence. The townsfolk shifted, whispers faltering. Selah stepped closer, her hand out once more, gentle but insistent. Naomi looked from Elias to her, torn, tears brimming. Then, slowly, she released Elias's hand and took Selah's. The crowd inhaled, the tension bending like a bowstring. But instead of triumph, Selah turned to Elias, her voice firm. You kept her alive. For that we owe you. She is ours, but you are not her enemy. Taya's stern gaze softened, just barely, and Noki's suspicion held. But her silence carried a kind of reluctant respect. They gathered Naomi close. Yet the child looked back, her eyes fixed on Elias as though leaving behind part of herself. Sheriff Boone cursed under his breath. But the crowd's hunger for conflict had dulled. What they had seen was not theft or betrayal, but something harder to dismiss. A bond forged in need, in compassion that shamed their gossip. As the women mounted, Elias felt the ache of loss already blooming in his chest. But Naomi's last glance held something steady, a promise that this connection would not vanish. The hoofbeats faded into the horizon, leaving dust hanging in the golden air. Elias remained on the porch, the town dispersing slowly, whispers muted now. He leaned against the doorframe, exhaustion washing through him, but also a strange sense of clarity. The desert set a test before him, and though the outcome left him emptier than before, it also left him changed. Years later, when he told the story, he would not speak of wagers or confrontations, nor the gossip that sought to poison him. He would speak of the moment a starving child breathed again, and how the world narrowed to the grip of a small hand in his own. He would say softly, almost to himself, sometimes grace does not look like victory. Sometimes it looks like standing your ground when silence would be safer, like choosing to carry a weight that others cast aside. And in those moments, the heart finds its truest measure.